Hey guys, Callum from Cagefront here. Welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We have just had UFC 308, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway take place, and it had some of the most insane moments that we have not only had this year, but in MMA as a whole. We had Robert Whittaker getting absolutely annihilated by Khamzat Chimaev in the co-main event, and then we just had the greatest chin in UFC history finally crumble in Ilia Topuria taking out Max Holloway, which has definitely just given pretty much everyone crippling depression. But we'll get into that a bit more later. We are going to be recapping every single fight on the card and also recapping all of the card's best moments. So let's kick it off with the first fight of the card. Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Leal. Now this, kicking off the card, good fight, great fight, honestly, but definitely controversial at the same time. Now, I had Rinat Fakhretdinov by a decision win in my prediction, so perfect prediction, and I don't think that it was any way, shape, or form the other way. I don't think Leal did win, but the controversy here is that Rinat got a 30-27 from one of the judges, and that's just not the case, because Leal did a great job in the first round defending the takedowns, was landing really nice leg kicks as well, which was just stuffing the momentum of Rinat and pressuring forward for those takedowns. So Rinat's ground game was ultimately, in comparison to what he usually has, was pretty much completely nullified. There wasn't really any threat there as well for Leal when it even got to the ground anyway. But when we look at Rinat going through the second and the third round, he just showed the urgency. He showed the necessary urgency there because he knew that he was behind. He was trading very good shots. The second and third round, he was just landing better hooks, better straights than Leal. You could tell that Leal was getting a little bit gassed towards the end, which is completely fair enough because obviously he's taking Sultan Ruzaboyev's place in this. He came in on short notice and he's fighting an absolute killer, like the worst fighter to fight outside the top 15 in welterweight. So honestly, just fantastic performance from Leal. Can't take anything away from him. But Rinat just using very nice three-piece combinations, using a body kick first and then a 1-2, just kept landing. The end of those punches just connected with Leal's chin and across his temple every time. But pretty much every round, I will say, was pretty razor close. But overall, Rinat showing that urgency, I think, honestly, I will say that it was his by 29-28 decision. But as I said in the predictions with Leal losing this fight, he will come back very strong if he is putting a performance like this on against a guy like Rinat and making it that close. Moving up, Ismael Naurdiev versus Bruno Silva. Now, Naurdiev, great win in terms of his confidence, because coming back into the UFC after getting cut going 2-2, I said in the predictions he never should have been cut, to be honest, and he really showed it in this fight. Very clear 30-27, just looked way faster. You could tell that he just studied Bruno Silva's game. He just made sure that he suffocated him, drowned him out with the takedowns, controlled him on the ground, completely drained his cardio as well, took away the KO threat, which is the only thing that Bruno Silva has. So honestly, Naurdiev, there's just not much to say here. He just had a fantastic performance, great confidence. And Bruno Silva, on the other hand, 1-6 in the UFC now. I think he needs to be getting cut. Moving up to Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo, our third perfect prediction of the card. Good start so far. Obviously didn't go great towards the end of it, but we move. But the thing that I'm more happy about with this fight, in terms of Farid Basharat, not for the perfect prediction, is the fact that he had such a dominant performance over Victor Hugo, who was 10 pounds heavier than him. Victor Hugo is fighting at 145. Basharat fought this at 135, basically max 137, which is very good in terms of just showing how good he is in respect to Victor Hugo and looking at his type of style. Victor Hugo, obviously very tricky on the ground, has good Muay Thai base, has KO power there, and Basharat completely nullified him, completely ragdolled him. There just wasn't really much Victor Hugo did, and to that point, obviously it was a 29-28. I think it was a 30-27. I think Farid Basharat won every single round. Victor Hugo had a few good moments in the third round, which really showed that physical presence there. He kind of threw Basharat a little bit at the start of the third round, but then Basharat pretty much controlled him and just out-transitioned him the rest of that round. So there just wasn't really much there for Hugo to do. And whenever Hugo came forward and tried to blitz, Farid Basharat's counter-striking was on point in this fight, using that straight down the pipe every single time Hugo came in, while switching stances as well. He was just way too fast and way too technical for a heavier Hugo, and it just ultimately showed, and it should have been a 30-27. He completely drowned him out on the ground. Hugo did not really threaten him at all, and Basharat, yeah, just honestly completely shows why this guy is undefeated. And doing this against a guy that's 10 pounds heavier, he is going to be getting put on notice, and hopefully he's going to get a really good jump in the division from this. Moving on to Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Chris Barnett. Now, not to take away from Kennedy Nzechukwu, obviously had him by KO, fourth perfect prediction, but Chris Barnett, man, it just sucks. Like 2 years off. The guy is a fan favorite. Everyone was really happy to have this guy come through, you know, on this card, any card, because the amount of memes that are just going around, they're saying like, oh, it's crazy that we have this co-main event with Whittaker and Chimaev and the main event with Ilia and Max, but then it's just like no one cares because Chris Barnett's on the card. And honestly, he is so entertaining, but it just sucked because he got injured pretty much straight off the bat. I thought it was his Achilles when it first happened, but it looks like it was his hamstring, and he was in so much pain. And the weight that he's at, like literally capping out at 265, the guy is, the amount of weight that is on his hamstring is just, it's just no point. He's got so much weight on his hamstring. He's getting backed up against Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is so much taller, so much longer. Like, there are just no answers for Chris Barnett in that circumstance. Now, Kennedy Nzechukwu looked a lot better at heavyweight, I think, than light heavyweight. I think it's a great move for him, especially just with his physical stature, and hopefully he gets an actual real good test that's actually going to be able to deliver. Nothing to take away from Chris Barnett, but Kennedy Nzechukwu, the performances that he's had at light heavyweight, he really needs a proven heavyweight test. Moving on to Alves Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. Now, this was one of the more so sketchy ones that I had in my predictions, because I did take Bruno Ferreira, so it's our first L of the card. But it was very close. I mean, Alves Magomedov, give him the first round on the volume. Bruno Ferreira in the second round, I mean, definitely took it. That was the most decisive round, obviously, aside from the third getting finished. But Bruno put it on Alves. Landed a very nice straight, and then head kick as well. Dropped Alves, and then obviously didn't get to finish him off. But he had a very good performance. But I think Bruno overall, the guy needs to cut down to welterweight. He just looked way too husky in this fight, way too big, and you could tell by that third round, he was the one that was drowning out. He was getting so tired, so exhausted. Probably pretty evident in terms of his career. Obviously, he's pretty much had every single one of his fights just finish in the first round, sometimes second. That's pretty much it. Whereas Alves Magomedov, obviously, he has horrifically bad cardio, notoriously, but he's just had those performances and those fights where he's had to really dig deep and make sure that he can get through, like KO Baralho, for example. And obviously, Alves Magomedov, you know, he capitalized in that third round, so it's complete credit to him. Got fantastic, beautiful double leg entry, got an exhausted Bruno Ferreira down on the ground, found that obviously got the arm triangle choke, and Bruno was just way too dead. There was nothing he could do about it. Honestly, Alves, good to get the win, but Bruno, very close fight, but needs to cut down to welterweight. Moving up to Mateusz Rebecki versus Myktybek Orolbai. What a fucking war. This was an insane fight. I don't even know where to start with this, because no one has been even close to being able to put that kind of pressure on Orolbai. I mean, Orolbai, yes, he got taken down by Brenner at points and was on his back, but no one's hurt him. No one has hurt him the way that Rebecki hurt him in this fight. Now, Orolbai, Obviously, that's catch weight, so I thought this was actually going to play more into Orolbai's favor because Rebecki is just so small. 66-inch reach, tiny, but Rebecki's game plan just really came in clutch because he's pretty much go balls to the wall in the first, second round, and if it doesn't work out, then he basically dies, which happened against Ferreira. But Rebecki obviously landed fantastic shots in the first and second round, was really closing that distance, switching the stance, pressuring Orolbai just the perfect way he was supposed to do so. And Orolbai obviously had very good moments in there as well. He cut Rebecki badly across the eyebrow. There was blood everywhere. Orolbai's eye was the size of a hot air balloon. It was ridiculous. I'm surprised that it actually didn't get called going into the second to the third round. To be fair, Rebecki just landed such a clean shot. I mean, those clean shots going back and forth, both of these guys, their shins were incredible. But Orolbai, towards the end of the third round, coming back and actually having top control, and Rebecki was obviously drained. If that went any longer, I honestly think Orolbai probably would have got him out of there somehow, which is ridiculous. But even though I had Orolbai by decision in my predictions, honestly, I don't even think this should have been a split decision. I think even though it was an insane fight, great back and forth fight, Rebecki won this 29-28 through the first and the third round, I do believe. Moving up to another espresso depresso, Geoff Neal versus RDA. RDA, 40 years old, pretty much bust his ACL. I mean, I'm not entirely sure if it was his ACL, but look, we know it did not look good. He pretty much went on the back foot, dropped straight to the ground. There's not much to analyze here. Obviously, Geoff Neal does suck for him because he just needs his redemption, and this was not it for it. And I think, honestly, Geoff Neal getting to fight Joaquin Buckley, really fun fight for the fans. Both of them got KO power. Both of them are pretty explosive, and it's going to be that real explosivity of Joaquin Buckley versus that technical, just really nice boxing of Geoff Neal. So I really want to see that. And for RDA, obviously, really sucks ass for him. And depending on how long he's going to be out for, this honestly could quite possibly be the last time we do see him, which does suck because he is a legend. And moving up to our very fast feature prelim, credit to Dana White, Ibo Arslan versus Rafael Sequeira. Now this one I blatantly got wrong because I had Sequeira getting this done by a KO. Obviously, Ibo Arslan shut that down very quickly. I mean, Arslan did not let Sequeira have any room to breathe at all. Landed clean shots, and his boxing in that close range against the cage, Ibo Arslan, that is where he is most dangerous. Capitalized the best way possible. Pretty much had Rafael Sequeira out on his feet like 4 or 5 times. And yeah, there's just not much to say there. Rafael Sequeira is the only guy that actually lost his 0 on this card. So all the undefeated fighters are shining. Unfortunately, not him though. Landed 1 strike in the fight, 1 leg kick. That is it. So hopefully this guy, in terms of that mentality that he has for a UFC debut, cannot go any worse. Hopefully he comes back stronger because he is talented. I had him picked for a reason. He's very good at range. If he can just maintain that range and utilize his kickboxing, utilizing his unorthodox strikes, then he can find some success. But going against an absolute freight train tank like Ibo Arslan, it obviously just makes it difficult for that to really happen when he's got that much forward pressure. So fantastic win for Ibo Arslan for the feature prelim. Now moving on to the main card, Shara Bullet versus Armen Petrosyan. I mean, we all knew that this was going to be a fun kickboxing fight. It was a very good fight. Armen Petrosyan, definitely the hardest opposition that Shara Magomedov has had to face. Definitely the most skilled, obviously, on the feet. And Armen Petrosyan opened up very well. He hurt Magomedov at the start of the round. In the first round, kind of just stunned him against the cage. But moving on from that, it just shows more depth to Magomedov because it shows that he can overcome adversity. He's overcame adversity against Olachechek, got stunned by him, overcome adversity against Armen now as well, and he's gone into the second and third round, and oh my gosh, this guy's striking arsenal is so deep, he's so clean, so fast with his strikes. And what do we say about the finishing strike? Double spinning back fist. I mean, that is creativity. That is Zabit level creativity. That is fantastic. One of the just most pleasing finishes that we have seen this year, without a doubt, and it's going to be awesome to see where he goes next. Magomedov, after getting a finish like that against a guy that is brimming around that top 15 area like Armen Petrosyan, just outside around that 30 range, 20 to 30 range in the rankings. Magomedov, honestly, with the stock he has, I think give him Paulo Costa. I think if you give him Paulo Costa, it still gives Magomedov a chance, because Paulo Costa is not a heavy wrestling threat. Paulo Costa is very durable, and that allows for either Magomedov to absolutely tee off just using a bunch of different strikes with that speed difference there, or Paulo Costa to run through Magomedov like a freight train and to fraud check him. So please give us that fight. Moving up the card to Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. Now this was just a very fascinating, like, high level displayed fight. I mean, it was a little boring at points, but Lerone Murphy, this guy, he's honestly special in that division, and I can completely see why he is undefeated, and he is going to cause some problems for guys up in around that top 5 range, because he overcame adversity extremely well. Obviously, Ige got a lot of power in his hands, dropped Lerone pretty well in that first round, and then Lerone Murphy completely just one word, composure. It's the composure. Just completely ran through to the second and third rounds, was using Ige's poor gas tank against him, which was surprising, and Lerone was landing the cleaner shots, landing the better shots, was utilizing the wrestling better as well, which is usually what Dan Ige would be doing. He obviously took him down more times as well, and yeah, Lerone Murphy, I think this was just a great bridging fight to show in the rankings that he has more depth to his game than just being a kickboxer. And not only that, with the call out as well at the end of the fight, I mean, calling out Josh Emmett, I think that's a great call out, because Lerone Murphy obviously getting dropped by Ige, Emmett could take him out. So it's good that we're seeing him really want to challenge someone that, like Emmett, who is a career ender type of fighter. He can if he finishes someone, he finishes someone, Bryce Mitchell. So if Lerone Murphy takes that challenge and he gets through him, that's just like a really, really good test. And especially if Lerone Murphy can finish him, he can do what Ilia didn't. I mean, that really puts even more stock on Lerone's name. So great fight IQ in the fight, and great fight IQ in terms of the call out itself. Moving up to Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. Now, this was honestly probably the most boring fight on this whole entire card. Rakic, he did not look comfortable. He honestly didn't. The odds obviously displayed it. Rakic, I'm not sure if there's still some form of ring rust there, but he was doing well in the first round, just like he did against Yuri. He was doing very well in the first round. I think he won that round, hence the 29-28, but moving into the second and third, him being comfortable went out the window when Ankalaev started really putting on those twos straight down the pipe. I think that's where Rakic was really starting to just circle out to the point where he was not throwing any volume whatsoever. Ankalaev was on the front foot in Southport the whole entire time, catching him with the two every time Rakic tried to exit and circle out, and that was just adding and adding and adding, and Ankalaev obviously got this done. And as boring as it was on both of their sides, you just can't deny Ankalaev now. He is going to be fighting Alex Pereira. Dana has confirmed it now, and yeah, I mean, Ankalaev, obviously, if he can get those leg kicks under control in terms of checking, he's gonna make for a decent challenge against Alex Pereira. So I'm definitely actually keen for that one. Moving on to the co-main event. What the hell? Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. Now this, I don't even know where to start. This is ridiculous, because Robert Whittaker, 2 full training camps for this guy. Full camps for Khamzat Chimaev. Chimaev comes out right into the cage. Persona's completely different as well. He's never had this kind of respect for any opponent, so I thought that could play into a negative aspect of his game. Clearly not. Khamzat Chimaev comes out, beautiful entry, so fast with his takedown entries, got Robert Whittaker straight against the cage, scooped up his legs, and then controlled him for over 3 minutes. I mean, Whittaker, he had to survive the first 2 rounds, and then obviously with my prediction, I said that he would then find that success in the 3rd or 4th and chin Chimaev. But Chimaev was not letting that happen. Clear as day, he just destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him. Like Khabib to Conor, neck crank style to a whole different level. If you haven't seen already, I'll pop it up on the screen. Robert Whittaker's teeth are absolutely destroyed. Gum is gone, like pooled with blood. It's a pretty horrible sight to see, obviously, because Robert Whittaker, he is an amazing fighter, you know, amazing personality, just persona in general. And you know, it does suck. It obviously sucks. Being Australian as well, it does really suck. But I do like Chimaev, and obviously Chimaev getting through this, he is literally staying there doing absolutely nothing until he gets his title shot, because that is all Chimaev deserves. Like, that's everything that he gets. Like, I mean, he doesn't, there's no point in doing any other form of fight. Just give Chimaev what he deserves in that title fight, whether it's Strickland, whether it's DDP. I am comfortable that Chimaev, after beating Whittaker like that, can beat absolutely anyone. And if the card wasn't already insane enough, the main event, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. Where do we even start? This was just, honestly, in terms of the record books, this is just monumental, because looking at Ilia Topuria and just the fighter that he is now, beating Volkanovski, KOing him, KOing Max Holloway. No one has been able to do this in 30 odd fights. No one's been even close. Gaethje dropped him once, and Volk fought him 3 times, stunned him once. And then that's pretty much it. Dustin Poirier backed him up against the cage. That is all we have. Ilia Topuria not only knocks this guy down, he chins Holloway, splits him from consciousness. Now, this just ages so much better for Ilia as well, because he faced adversity in the fight. It wasn't just a clean slate, just dominated Holloway. Holloway outlanded him in this fight, in significant strikes as well. It was very razor close, but he did so. And in the first round, I'll give it to Ilia. Ilia landed the better shots, but Holloway in the 2nd and the 3rd round, he was landing cleaner shots. He was using the L shift very well that I spoke about in the predictions. Came off that L shift, utilized the 1-2 down the pipe. The 2 was hitting Topuria over and over and over, especially in that 2nd round, and it was just very, very clean. But Max, he got too tentative just in that split second. In that exchange, he didn't circle out, and when he doesn't circle out, obviously he got stunned, didn't circle. Ilia, left hook, bang, straight down. Holloway dropped. Lucky, honestly, lucky Mark Goddard stepped in when he did, because 2 more shots, Holloway wasn't getting up for a while. That's just how dangerous Ilia Topuria is. Max Holloway, obviously, in great spirits, just like Robert Whittaker, amazing persona, fantastic fighter. He will be back, hopefully. Honestly, not at featherweight again. He doesn't have anything else to prove there, realistically. Like, yes, he can fight Ilia again, but by the time that Ilia might fight Ilia again, Ilia is probably going to be at lightweight fighting Islam at that point. It might just be at lightweight. So if I'm Holloway, I am fighting Ilia at lightweight 100%, because that weight translation for Holloway at lightweight, we know when we saw him fight Gaethje, it is a new lease on life for him. So he definitely needs to keep his head up, because he knows he's just got that openness in that division. He's 32 years old. He has got time to do some damage up in 155. So hopefully he goes there. And Ilia, obviously, fighting Volk next, which is what I wanted. I'm going to be picking Ilia by a finish against Volk in their rematch. Obviously, I mean, Volk is an absolute god of a fighter. He is the GOAT of that division, but you just can't deny Ilia in that power at the moment, and obviously the damage that Volkanovski has taken too. But regardless, Volk has to go out on his shield. So we need to see that one, whether it's Spain, whether it's Sydney, whether it's anywhere. We're getting that one next, and then obviously Diego Lopes is after that, whether it's for Ilia or whether it's for Volk. We just never know, because MMA is absolutely insane. Now moving on to the fight card awards, kicking it off with the fighter to watch, gotta give it to Shara Bullet. I mean, just the striking arsenal that this guy has is nothing short of entertaining, and obviously he's getting cherry-picked fighters that have obviously stand-up games only, but that is obviously what makes him entertaining and what makes him a draw, because they just get to put on a show on the feet. Business-wise, very smart idea, but obviously longevity-wise for Shara, it's not so good. But if he just keeps going on with these fights and really works on his wrestling behind the scenes, we never know, he could be extremely dangerous. So definitely, obviously, keep a lookout for a guy that is doing double spinning back fists and knocking people out. Now moving on to fight of the night, I've got to go back and give it to Mateusz Rebecki versus Myktybek Orolbai. I mean, this pretty much had everything. It had great striking, great wrestling, blood everywhere, bloody puffy eyeballs the size of bloody hot air balloons. It had everything. They both put everything on the line, and yeah, ultimately it was just, I mean, the epitome of an entertaining fight. There's not really much more to say for it, but Myktybek Orolbai got a lot of heart coming back from getting dropped, and obviously Rebecki coming back into this war after getting exposed by Ferreira and showing that he's still got it. So amazing fight overall for both of their confidence as well. Now moving on to the top 3 most notable moments of the card, and in number 3, which is a bit of an underrated pick, I'm gonna go with Farid Basharat. The fact that this guy is undefeated at bantamweight, fighting a guy 10 pounds heavier than him and 30-27ing the guy. Like, I mean, yes, I know it's 29-28, but watch it, it was 30-27. Like, honestly, having that kind of performance against someone like that, that is that much heavier, push this guy straight near the top 15, or honestly give him a top 15 fight, because he has not only done that, he has shown such fantastic improvements on the feet. His striking is so much cleaner, even in contrast to literally just his last fight, his striking especially, because his wrestling is fantastic. Wrestling is great, his transitions are elite, and he's obviously got the submission game there, but his striking, his counter striking, his twos, his constant switch stances as well. He's really developing into a well-rounded MMA fighter, being undefeated, a lot of momentum. I want to see him in the top 15. Now moving on to second place, gotta give it to Khamzat. Honestly, Khamzat cranking Whittaker's chin to the point where those teeth were an absolute fucking mess. I mean, just the pure devastating fashion that it was, you just can't not, I can't not put this in the top 3 best card moments, because Whittaker, obviously, he had a lot of people riding on him, including myself. I mean, most people, yes, the odds obviously in Chimaev's favor, but if you look at all the pros, all the MMA YouTubers, most people were going for Whittaker by a finish here, let's be honest. And Chimaev just shut everyone up, including myself. And this guy, if he's doing this to Whittaker, who is a former champion, who has destroyed so many fighters, man, it's just literally just start the clock, because he is going to be getting a title. And moving on to number 1, obviously Ilia being the first fighter to finish Max Holloway. What else do we need to say? I mean, that is just an insane feat in itself. Being able to finish Max Holloway, literally going through undefeated as well. He has faced no actual adversity, obviously, aside from Jai Herbert back with the head kick. Every other fight, I mean, he has pretty much looked flawless since Jai Herbert. He has looked insane. I mean, he's so well-rounded. What holes does he have to expose? If he's knocking out Holloway, he's knocking out Volkanovski. No one's out wrestling him except for Bryce Mitchell in the first round. He actually did a very good job. But aside from that, I mean, we know what happened in the second round. He gets choked out. So, I mean, BJJ black belt, Greco-Roman wrestling, and obviously, as we know, KO power in that boxing. So there's just not really many holes, and this guy might be, honestly, a title holder for a very long time. And I think the only person that has an actual decent chance of finishing him is Islam Makhachev, a weight division up. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you want to see more MMA based content, definitely like, comment, subscribe. It really goes a long way for the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.